Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. I know the politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it, so this is the show where you can ask all the questions that you don't feel comfortable asking other people, or maybe you don't have anybody that can answer these questions for you. It could be as simple or as complicated as you like. It can be left wing, it can be right wing. It does not matter. So long as you are asking in good faith, you will get a good faith answer in return. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. There's no debating here, or harassing, or bullying, or making fun of people, or anything like that. What is up, Spyrus? Good to see you again. Someone whose name I can't read says, what you think of Russia invading Ukraine? I'm against it, and I think that it is good that America has been helping Ukraine to defend itself. And God bless the people in Ukraine for defending themselves. Excuse me. Welcome, everybody. Custodio says Obi-Wan Kenobi is the answer for every problem. I mean, yeah, but he doesn't exist in real life. So at a certain point, we're going to have to start talking about solutions that have to do with non-fictional characters. Shark says, should Wyoming be turned into a parking lot? No, I'm sure there's beautiful stuff in Wyoming. I've done shows in Wyoming. Had a great time doing shows in Wyoming. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left-wing or right-wing. There is no such thing as a dumb question. What is up, Triska? Great to see you again. No such thing as a dumb question, so you don't get to worry about being made fun of or judged or being called uninformed or anything like that. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. Fletch Lives Again says, thank you, Major Jason Watson, Human of the Year. Who? Oh, yeah, he's the military guy that is demanding Trump's impeachment. Excellent. Shork says, is the Trump gold card visas a smart idea? No, and I'm pretty sure that no one's even using them, right? Somebody's name I can't read says, have you ever been to the ice wall? Is that a flat earther thing? Spyrus says, I'm afraid that corruption has made its way to the U.S. Oh, it been here, Spyrus. It's the Rocketeer says, oh, I'll get a dumb question in there, don't worry. Somebody whose name I can't read says, do the Jews run the banks? No, that is a conspiracy theory. 1161, stop spamming the comments, either ask a question or leaves. TikTok Shop Cosmetic Consult says, what do you think about the Republic of Somaliland becoming recognized by Israel? I do not know anything about the Republic of Somaliland or any politics surrounding whether or not it gets recognized by the state of Israel. Was this part of the original Abraham Accords that happened at the end of the first Trump administration? Laoji says, did Ukraine government blow up the Nord Stream in 2022? I don't think so, but that's not really my area of expertise. Nicodem Hop says, who you think is likely most realistic person to become next president? I mean, a lot of people are talking about Gavin Newsom, but, it could be anybody. Nobody's even declared yet. Somebody's name I can't read says, are you Jewish? My dad was Jewish. I don't celebrate any religion. All right, Drew says, bro, my brother just got grounded from his computer. Oh, that's a bummer. 1161 says, would it be better to have one smart leader or a handful of idiots? I mean, are you advocating for a dictatorship? 1161. Luca says, do you believe that both capitalism and communism are bad ideologies? No, I mean, you have to think about this from two different perspectives. You have to think about it from the economic model or the political model. Like, I don't think that a capitalist political model or a communist political model are good. But as far as like economic models, they both have their values. Like if you wanted to start selling grilled cheese sandwiches, then I think you should have the right to be able to sell grilled cheese sandwiches. But I also think that if you are a massive corporation, then your workers should get paid more than they are currently getting paid. The workers should own the means of production, etc. All right, Maru says, what you think of technocracy? I mean, it depends. Do you mean like people that are very technical in the specifics of governing, or are you talking about using technology to govern? It could be either one. Muri says 1161 stands for fascism in German, so I think he is a Nazi. That tracks. I believe in dictatory. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, Matt Moody says, what do you think of the Islam March in Michigan? So I don't know anything about any specific Islam march that is happening in Michigan, but every type of group of person has the right to do marches. That's part of the First Amendment. So if a bunch of people who are Muslim or Jewish or Islamic want to. I forget what you call the people that celebrate Islam. Are they Muslims? I forget. Yeah. Whatever religion wants to march is allowed to march. Let them march. I say. Kurdish Edit says, "Do you want Kurdish independence?" I don't know anything about Kurdish independence, unfortunately. Quamar says, "I believe in a free Palestine and erasure of the apartheid state Israel." I mean, like, are we talking about, first of all, free Palestine? Yes, 100%. But as far as like the erasure of the apartheid state of Israel, like, are we talking about ending apartheid, or are we talking about ethnically cleansing Israel of all the Jewish people? Because I don't really vibe with the second one. Patriot says, "What do you think about Donald Tusk from Poland?" I don't know who Donald Tusk is. Kamar says, "A new state for both people." I mean, yeah, if you can make it work, like, absolutely, man. Like, let's have a place where Israel used to be that is full of peace and love for everybody, no matter what their religion is. Han Commu says, "Do you like Trump?" No, I do not. John Scarp says, "Free Palestine from Hamas." Yeah, I agree with that also. I mean, it's hard to say free Palestine from Hamas when they voted to put Hamas in charge. Okay, let's see here. What should I call you, person whose name I can't read because it's all in Russian characters? Would Putin be better than Trump if he was president in the U.S.? I don't think so. I mean, they're both equally terrible people, but Putin is a lot smarter. I would much rather have somebody who is worse and more obvious, more blatant in their crimes. What is up, Deshi? What is up, Davy Boy? Says apartheid runs rampant in Islamic societies. I don't know if that's true, Davy. Thank you, Average Joe. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, Koss says, "Do you condemn the IDF?" Oh yeah. I mean, they're murdering children on purpose. Every human every human should. If you're doing war crimes, then you should be condemned. Fog War Productions says, "Speaking of religion, your thoughts on Mormon political realignment? Is that a thing that's happening? Like, are the Mormons ditching the Republican Party?" Alexander says, "Do you support anti-illegal immigration?" I don't know what anti-illegal immigration means. Lucas says, "What do you think about nationalism?" I would love for somebody to explain to me what the difference between nationalism and patriotism is. If nationalism isn't our country is better than every other country, and we should fuck over other countries in favor of our country. David F says, "I gotta bounce, but I really appreciate you being open about I don't know when you don't." Oh, thank you, David F. I appreciate that. Foggle War says, "Ditching is an understatement. We're practically being chased out of the GOP." Well, welcome to the Democratic Party, everybody. The water's fine, and everybody's welcome. Average Joe says, "Did you get a chance to read the new UN article yet?" No, I did not, Average Joe. Shores says, "Do you think the EPP's position in the European Parliament is toxic?" I don't know what the EPP is. Matt Moody says, "Do you support open borders?" I mean, theoretically, I am fine with them. I don't think they're practical at the moment, but if we could snap our fingers today and there were no borders, I would probably be cool with that. All right, somebody whose name I don't know says, "Should homeless people be drafted to war instead of citizens?" No, no. Why are we forcing homeless people to fight our wars for us? Doesn't seem really morally just. Ivan Cisco says, "If Trump is removed from office, who takes over for the rest of the term?" It would be J.D. Vance, unless he also gets impeached, in which case it would then go to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Boss K says, "Do you know much about UK politics?" Very little. I only know don't vote reform, don't vote restore, don't vote for Nigel Farage. Alexander Darb says, basically, do you support kicking the kicking out of illegal immigrants? So I think that there are good people who are here illegally or in other countries illegally, and there are bad people who are in other countries illegally. I think that if a person is a benefit to their community, but they are here illegally, I think that we should be chill about finding a way for them to stay. But if somebody is guilty of some terrible, violent crime, then obviously we should deport those people. Yeah, I'm pretty chill about immigration. Short says, "Do you think the draft is a good way to make America anti-war?" Ooh, that is a good question. I don't know. Like, I mean, America does feel pretty anti-war already. Like, I think we've accomplished that. I think the attitude is anti-war already. So yeah, I don't think we need to add that on top of it. Giovanni says, "What is your idea about remigration in Europe?" So remigration is a anti-immigration policy that is based in racism, and so I do not endorse, do not condone. Anybody who's trying to sell you on remigration is not a good person. Alexander says, if they are a benefit, I think they should come legally, shouldn't they? So you're assuming, Alexander, that it is an easy thing to do. You are assuming that depending on who is in charge of the country, that there is a fair and equitable mechanism by which they can come legally. There are, for example, a lot of people that have been trying to work their way through the immigration system here in America, and just based on one Supreme Court decision just this week, Trump has the ability to wipe them all out. Just I know you've been working on becoming a citizen for 5 years, but sorry, you're out of here. Goodbye. It's expensive, it's long, it's convoluted, there's a ton of bureaucracy. Like, it is hard. It is very difficult. Okay, Nico Dem Hop says, what's better, ruthless but efficient president, or soft but incompetent president? I mean, I guess I'd rather have ruthless but efficient if they have the good platform that they're working on, you know? But if it's, I would rather have a soft, incompetent president if I don't like what they're trying to accomplish. Garrow says, remigration. So I'm not going to truck with that today. All right. Average Joe says, patriotism is general support, defense, and loyalty to one's country. Nationalism is based in supremacy. That is what I figured, Average Joe. Thank you for the clarification on that. JJJ says, you're not Myron Gaines, bro. Never said I was. Dapper says, what side would you typically lean towards? I mean, it's not typically. It is 100% of the time I am a progressive Democrat. Shork says, who's the best Democrat today? Oh, the Democrats have a deep bench. I'm not gonna say one is the best of all of them, but I could just rattle off a whole bunch of ones that I like a lot right now. You know, James Tallarico, Josh Shapiro, what's his name? Andy something. There's two Andys now. There's one in Kentucky and there's one in the UK, and now I'm getting them mixed up. There's Bashir, Andy Bashir, James Tallarico, AOC, Bernie Sanders. There's a whole bunch of good ones. Mamdani. Beck, yeah, says, thoughts on the Erft latrine disaster. Don't know what that is. Wise says, what do you think of minarchism? Don't know what that is. Lucasal says, who do you think is better in Malta? I don't know anything about Malta. Gamer Keat says, would you like illegal immigrants in England? I mean, I don't live in the UK, but immigrants are a net positive wherever they go. Kissy face, kissy emoji says, do you support Kamala? What a weird question in 2026. Alexander says, what do you think about Thomas Massie? So where you are judging Republican politicians, it really is a sliding scale, because even the best one is still confirming Trump's nominees, voting for his bills, even if it's somebody like Thomas Massie, who has been who's like been more standing up to Trump than other elected Republicans. He still is a trickle-down economics guy. He still is a cut regulations that keep pollution out of our air and our water kind of a guy. So he sucks. He just sucks a lot less than the rest of them. Okay, let's see here. Scrolling down. Emma says, do you support Trump? No, I do not. Carlo Assalati says, hello, I wanted to know what would be my party in U.S. and in the UK. My ideology is radical centrist. I mean, we already have a centrist, you know, in America, so you could be a center left or a center right, you know. All right, Drew M says, bro, my brother got grounded. I was teasing him, but he threw a sandal at me. So, Drew, if you don't ask a question about politics, I'm going to kick you out. BBM Production says, who do you think will win in the next UK election? Oh, nobody knows. You shouldn't ask questions about, asking for political predictions. Plant Daddy Mix says, where's the proof of life Mitch watch party location? Has anybody seen the movie Weekend at Bernie's? Because I feel like the Republican Party is doing that with Mitch McConnell. Schneider says, I crossed the bridge and went to heaven last night. I met the Lord. He told me he is coming back. Well, that's good news, Schneider. But if you don't ask a question about politics, I'm going to boot you. What is up? Tomato die tomate. Mikhail Meme, good to see you again. NA says, do you think Kamala will win the nomination for 2028? I mean, you're asking me to predict. I don't know. Nobody really does. I don't think that she has the juice to win the primary in 2028. But you know, if she wants to run, she can run. K-Spur says, do you like the piss party? I don't know anything about the piss party. Is that the party where we all piss into one bucket? or something. Let's see here. All right, weird questions so far today, but welcome everybody. My name is Jared Berenstein, and I'm here to answer your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. As long as you're asking in good faith, you will get a good faith answer. James asks, do you follow UK politics? Only thing I know about UK politics is never vote reform, never vote for Nigel Farage. Carol says, yo, dude, you weren't active on our furry femboy roleplay Discord server. Is everything okay? I don't know who you are or what that is. Let's see here. Casper says, the Piss Party is a Polish far-right party. Well, I'm against all far-right parties, so finger down on that. Schneider says, they told them about the earthquake that is about to happen, and I will stop it with Jesus. That is weird. Again, Snyder, you got to leave if you're not going to ask a question. James says, and why not vote for a right-wing party? Excellent question. Because right-wing ideology doesn't work. We have seen it many, many times. We know how that happens. As it stands, every right-wing party is playing the exact same, strategy of blaming immigrants for problems that were caused by rich people. And when they get into office, they are going to be horrific to immigrants, and then they're going to cut taxes for the wealthy and cut government programs and cut regulations. And it's just like, it doesn't work, I don't like pollution in my food, so I'm not going to vote right wing. I don't like it when there are people starving on the street while billionaires are eating lobster and caviar 3 meals a day while they're flying on their private jets to their private yachts to their fucking mega mansions, plural. So yeah, I'm not going to vote for a right wing party any day of the week. All right, Schneider, that is a boot. Maya Papaya asks, Israel or Palestine? I support the citizens of both of those countries, and I'm against the governments of both of those countries. Casper says, do you like Thomas Sankara? He did some good things and some bad things. I like a left wing leader, but I do not care for authoritarians who throw people in jail without trials. NA says Joe Biden should run again. He was a good president and only person to beat Trump. I don't know if the zombie corpse of Joe Biden can run again. Non-paying viewer says, thoughts on Gibbard-Satterwhite theorem. I don't know what that is. Mikhail Meme says, how do I let go of racist thoughts about immigrants? I mean, meditation, Mikhail Meme, like release the hate from inside of you. Be like a Jedi, let it leave you. James says, I think Joe Biden had dementia. I mean, he was definitely diminished because of old age. Drew74 says, I live in France. My dad says he is voting for the Le Pen, who he supports. That is a real bummer. You should not vote for Marine Le Pen. Avi says, what do you think about the Frikorps? I don't know what that is. Avi says, Biden is good, but he's too old. No arguments there. Ecuadorian, I am not the last Jedi. There will be others. Eddie says, can you explain the benefits of the EU, and do you think UK should have left it? So this is not my area of expertise, Eddie, but I can tell you generally speaking that the UK was wrong of them to do that. They were benefiting more from being in the EU than being out of it. And being out of it has raised the cost of goods, raised the cost of travel for people in the UK. And it's just made, things more complicated and weird. And so it is clear that the reason why people voted for that was because they got tricked by a bunch of hostile billionaires. And so I would advise you guys to get back into the EU as soon as you can. All right. The 17 Airy says, I think Sexy Red should be president. Would be fun. I don't know who Sexy Red is. Mikhail Beam says, should I talk to them and have conversations with them? With who? Mikhail Meme. Okay, James says, no rape rates and no immigration or Islam. They allow immigrants in, but only from Christian countries. What are you talking about, James? Are you talking about Poland? Poland is only allowing immigrants from Christian countries. I think that's going to hurt them in the long run. Nico Demhop says, what do you think about Poland removing Zelensky of their highest medal? Nico Dem, I got to be honest, I did not read into that. I saw the story. I told myself I should figure out the details of it. But I honestly, if he did something that Poland doesn't like, then I guess that's fine, Avi says, billionaires and illegal immigration are a problem, but there should be ways to migrate legally and fairly. That is accurate, Avi. But if you're asking me what is the biggest problem, it is billionaires. Like, can there be issues with mass illegal immigration? Absolutely. But the problems pale in comparison. Like, we would have the resources to deal with anybody that wants to come to America if we just taxed billionaires to the point where they were no longer billionaires. Eli says, do you think immigration is net positive? I don't think that. That's just a fact. We have the data on that. Drew74 says, what is going on in the USA? I live in France. My friend said there's a civil war. There's no civil war in America, but shit is definitely weird because our government is being run by psychopaths. The Republican Party and Donald Trump and his ilk. Chuck Isberry says, are we getting robbed from Chinese flying to have a baby to get our benefits? I do not believe that the Chinese are flying to America so that they can pay more to have their baby than they could just do in China. Okay. The 17 Aries says, search her up. I probably won't do that. Let's see here. Mikhail Meme says, should I talk to immigrants? Yeah, why not? Talk to anybody that you like. Lorenzo says, how can anyone be against send immigrant back when they commit crimes? I don't know. I'm not against that. But maybe you want them in the country so that they can testify or they can go to jail in your country, you know? Like, it depends. Casper says, I don't have a problem with immigrants as long as they integrate into the society. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if they, you know, if the next generation integrates and the people themselves don't. Foghorn Production says, there is birth tourism problem, especially in the North Marianas. I don't know what that is. Oreo20 says, when do you think the Republicans will finally impeach Trump? I don't think they ever will. They have had so many opportunities, and they still haven't. They have lost all legitimacy, in my opinion. They've been losing it for a long time. Frozen says, Putin or Zelensky? Zelensky. K-Rob says, what do you think about eugenics? I'm against them. Drew74 says, should I support Macron in France? Is he still running? But you should definitely not vote for Marine Le Pen. That's all I know. Nasty Nate says, Vance will be perfect for our country. That is a lie, and also that is not a question. So ask a question or I'm going to boo you. Shork says, isn't baby tourism a net positive for the U.S. anyways? I can't say if it's a real thing or not. Sebastian says, hi, I'm Sebastian from Spain's PP. What do you think of? I don't know. Sorry about that. PP says, I can't see Rubio or Vance becoming presidents. You and the rest of America. Makise Kurisu ain't reading it today. Boom! All right, that's 5 points for you, 2 points for me. Ha ha! Catch it up. NA says, do you think Anthony Weiner will make a comeback now that Dems are okay with diddling kids? Dems are not okay with diddling kids. NA, what made you think that? It's the Republicans that refuse to do anything about Donald Trump being all over the Epstein files. Ross says, who's your favorite British politician? I don't have a favorite. I have least favorites like Nigel Farage. Riverside Vixen says, bruh, reply. I didn't see your question, so I can't reply to it. Avi says, do you follow German politics? I don't, but I did see that the AFD party, hold on a second. They're trying to ban the biggest party in Germany. Who's the biggest party in Germany, Avi? Ross says, Maggie Thatcher? Oh, yeah, I don't like her either. Why are all these questions about non-American politics? Like, it says in my description, mostly USA politics. Nico Dem says, why don't you like Nigel from UK? He is a right-wing political hack. He is a liar. He is trying to convince people to vote for right-wing politicians so that they can allow billionaires to get more tax breaks and cut government services. They want to cut the NIH. They want to fuck around with all your social safety net programs and allow corporations to spill as much chemicals in your food and your water as they fucking want to. And they're gonna pay for all of this by subjugating a whole bunch of marginalized people who just wanted to have a better life. Okay, let's see here. H. Ben says, bruh was talking about the AFD. Unfortunately, that is what I thought. Okay, Brian Smith says, do you agree with birthright citizenship? Yeah, why not? The birthright citizenship is part of being America, you know? H. Ben says, any thoughts about Mamdani? Love him. He great politician and an even better mayor. Henry says, do you think the UK should change from FPTP to a different voting system? I have no idea what the voting system is like in the UK. Eimer says, communism or capitalism? ¿Por qué no los dos? I like a mixed model. I like capitalism that is regulated with a little bit of employee-owned companies, with a little bit of government-run agencies. Avi says the AFD is the fastest growing right now. The biggest is the CDU, but they're getting a lot of hate. I mean, the AFD is a far-right party. I believe that Germany is right in trying to squelch any political party that aligns themselves with the Nazi party. Like, as far as as far as I remember, Germany has like a lot of laws about doing Nazi shit for reasons that make a lot of sense. Live notification says, do you think there should be an age limit to run for president? Yeah, I would be totally down with people, who are above the age of 70 not being able to run for president. Brian Smith says, we had to stop it in Ireland because hundreds of thousands of Nigerians coming here 7 or 8 months pregnant. I gotta be honest, Brian Smith, like that stuff doesn't bother me at all. Okay, Jason Tatum says, do you hate Nazism? Yes. Hopefully Rational says Trump 2028. That is not a question, so that's a block. Weird questions today. Riverside Vixen says, do you agree in the electoral process of electing a president? I mean, if you're asking me if I like the Electoral College, the answer is no. The Electoral College is a wildly imperfect way to elect a president, where if you are a Republican voting for president in California, your vote is basically thrown in the garbage. If you are a Democrat voting for president in Alabama, your vote is basically thrown in the garbage. If you are a voter in Wyoming, your vote counts 3 times as much as a voter in Texas. I don't think that that's fair. So how about we just get rid of it and whoever gets the most votes wins? Seems like a better system to me. Mikael Meme says, thoughts on Myron Gaines? Don't know who that is. H. Ben says, isn't it weird that the U.S. has literally just 2 parties that can rule and no alternatives? No, I don't think it's weird. It kind of makes sense historically. If you look at if you kind of like track the progress of the political parties, it makes sense. If we don't have ranked choice voting and if we don't change the Electoral College, then it makes it really difficult for other parties to be involved. If you want other parties to be involved, you should probably support the Democratic Party because they're the only ones who are down with opening up the political process to third parties, things like ranked choice voting and getting rid of the Electoral College. Dr. Andrew says, because we are not a democracy, mob doesn't rule. I don't know what that means. Drew74 says, this is political. I'm going to Algeria for vacations from France. Is this nice or mean? I don't know anything about the politics of Algeria tourism. Avi says, thoughts on banning lobbyism? I'm for it. Jason Tatum says, what is the best ideology? Progressive Democrat. Riverside Dixon says, who has your favorite president been so far? I mean, in my lifetime, it's been Obama, but I mean, I'm judging Clinton, Obama, and Biden. Trump and the Bushes and Reagan were terrible, so they're not, in the game. Fargo Production says, who's the bigger degenerate, Don Jr., Hunter Biden, or Charlie Sheen? Probably Charlie Sheen. Riverside Dixon says, yay, Obamacare. Yeah, I mean, people are alive today because of Obamacare. I'm not mad about that. Mikhail Meme says, Myron Gaines is the guy that I think he argues that Israel controls the U.S. Well, I don't care for that because that's inaccurate. H. Ben says, Algeria and France are in a beef, and it's on its peak since their independence, by the way. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, yeah, the politics of other nations is not my area of expertise, everybody. Jason Tatum says, should water be free for anybody? Yes. Riverside Vixen says, bye, sir. Goodbye back. Jason Tatum said, or did that one. John Ray says, do you support the drone strikes from Obama? That's a really tough one because obviously there were a lot of mistakes. And so a lot of innocent people got killed with those drone strikes. I do not believe that it was the mandate of the Obama administration to murder a bunch of innocent civilians with their drone strikes. I think that those were, mistakes that, whoever was responsible should be held accountable, of course. But unlike the Trump administration, I do not believe that Obama was like, just murder as many brown people as you like over there. I don't really give a shit. Now, I think that if you're looking at the situation where Obama is the first black president and right-wing media is waiting for any fucking terrorist attack to happen that they can throw him under the bus for, obviously he's going to be a little bit aggressive about trying to protect national security and stuff like that. So I think it makes sense, but I believe that if you talk to Obama today or anybody that worked for his administration, they would tell you that that was a mistake and that they should have been much more careful. Ali says, thoughts on Trump's tariffs? Tariffs can be a really useful tool if you use them like a scalpel, but that is not what Trump is doing. You're not really supposed to start a trade war, America versus the entire globe. You can't really win that, so bad idea, especially when we are already in a cost of living crisis. Brian Smith says, what policy of Dems do you disagree with? I guess I just disagree with the way that they can kind of like water down their own policies or kind of like, not aggressively pursue them. All right. And A says Republicans have the House, Senate, Judiciary, and Executive. Why haven't they poisoned our water yet? They have. Have you not seen that they have increased limits on PFAS in our water? Have you not seen that they've made it illegal to sue Monsanto for giving people cancer? NA? Are you not aware of that? Here's a better question. Republicans have the House, Senate, Judiciary, and Executive. Why haven't they banned stock trading for people in the government? Why haven't they released all the Epstein files? Why are we spending billions of dollars a day on a war for nothing in the Middle East? Why is the president allowed to have a crypto coin? Why is he selling political pardons? Why is it okay for the president's kids to be running all over the globe doing billion-dollar deals, banking off of the power of his own presidency? There's better questions for you, NA. Just letting you know. You can ask those next time if you like. Average Joe says, fact check, birth tourism is a propaganda tactic meant to increase distrust of immigrants. I believe that is 100% accurate, Average Joe. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right. A says, left or right? Left. Vendy says, is the World Cup going to help Trump? No. Fogwar Production says, do you think packing the Supreme Court will open Pandora's box? So let's be 100% about something, Fogwar Productions. Like, if the Democratic Party came into power and added seats, it would not be packing the Supreme Court. What the Republican Party has been doing for the past 50 years is packing the Supreme Court, where now the Supreme Court needs to be fixed. It needs to be rebalanced. It needs to be unpartisanized as it is currently. So yeah, do I believe that Democrats should fix a Supreme Court that has been hijacked by the Republican Party? 100% they should do that. And there's a constitutional scholar whose name is something Mistal, Elie Mistal, I think. And he made the point that where you see sometimes these conservative judges siding with the Democratic appointees, and you have things like the birthright citizenship case where a couple of conservatives broke off and joined the lefties. The more people that you have in the Supreme Court, the more the squishiness of those judges can come out. You know, it was easy for, you know, shitty groups like the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society to install judges to get rid of abortion because they only needed to replace like 3 judges in order to make that happen. But if the Supreme Court was 25 people, then, you know, who knows how wishy and squishy some of those Republicans might be about certain issues. Like, I did not foresee Neil Gorsuch having such a fucking hard-on for protecting Native American populations. Like, who'd have thought? I'm glad to have you as an ally there, my guy. So yeah, I don't really care if this starts an adding seats war, because at the very least it will make it harder for the Republican Party to hijack the Supreme Court going further. You know, there's a reason why one of the best ways that we have been able to keep the second Trump administration in check is through the judiciary up to the Supreme Court. Like, every court, basically, except for the Fifth Circuit, every court below the Supreme Court has been striking down Trump executive orders and ICE behavior and ballot challenges and shit like that, just like left and right. Forcing him to take his name off the Kennedy Center, forcing him to stop construction of a stupid fucking ballroom, you know, stuff like that. And the reason is not because the Republican Party has been asleep at the wheel. You know, they have been nominating judges for those lower courts like left and right. But there's so many that they have not been able to accomplish their goal. And even judges that were appointed by Trump are not as psychotic as he wanted them to be. And some of them are voting against him as well. So yeah, 25 seat Supreme Court, 55 seat Supreme Court. I don't give a fuck, man. Just keep on adding people until the Republican Party can't hijack the court anymore. Alrighty, let's see here. Lorenzo Bernaldo says, what do you think of the Reagan administration? I'm against it. Ali says, thoughts on UK politics. Here's my only thoughts about UK politics. Do not vote reform. Do not vote restore. Do not vote for Nigel Farage. Do not vote for the Tories. Franca says, do you believe that making memes out of loud affairs is just for distraction? Yeah, sometimes it's for distraction. Sometimes people think they can get a quick buck doing that. Mikhail Bean says, should we lower the age requirements to vote? I don't have a dogmatic opinion about that. I am open to both arguments that, yes, we should allow 16-year-olds to have more of a voice in the political process, because they are the ones who are going to have to live with the decisions that those politicians make for longer than old people who are voting. But also, is your brain that much more developed at 18 that you're making that much better decisions? Then some people would argue yes, some people would argue no. So I'm not going to die on that hill. But if a politician told me they wanted to lower the voting age to 16, it would not be a deal breaker for me. But it also wouldn't make me extra hyped to vote for them. All right, NA says, should we ban all PFOS and PFOS in water if it means that people have less access to water? I mean, NA, it sounds like what you're arguing for is that we should allow people to drink poison water that's going to give them cancer so that they don't dehydrate to death. Like, what world are you living in where we would ever have to make that bargain? That is some right-wing propaganda right there. NA, you're sus as hell. I just wanted to let you know, like, you're so close to getting banned because I know exactly what you're doing here, man. Philosopher TK said, should we allow teenagers with a high IQ to vote or not? I do not believe in, poll testing our teenagers to see if they're intelligent enough to vote. RemV says, not without a robust civics course requirement. For 16-year-olds? Yeah, again, I'm not going to die on this mountain. Eric says, I'm from Italy. What do you know of our political parties? Almost nothing. John Abbott says, lowering the voting age requirement would require other changes since the elections happen while they're in school. Not a reason not to do it, just a note of logistics involved. I mean, I would agree with you if vote by mail and early voting were not a thing, John Abbott. 312MQ says, what's going on with Iran? I haven't heard anything in like a week. Well, haven't you heard, 312? We only fight the Iranians on the weekend, so it doesn't spook the stock markets. But yeah, I mean, the memorandum of understanding or whatever it's called is still kind of holding / being debated, even though Iran attacked a freighter and then we bombed Iran again. Supposedly we're still at a ceasefire. Awful lot of more fire than ceasing in this ceasefire, if you ask me. Ari says, who would you vote for in the UK and why? Either the Greens or Labour, depending on who can win. Diego Vargas says, Republican voters are realizing that trans in women's sports is less important than gas prices. I sure hope they are, Diego Vargas. Ask Left says, thoughts on atheists and demon worshippers in the States. I mean, what is the problem with atheists? Ask Left. Like, are you equating people who are atheists with worshiping the devil? Because I do not believe that is accurate. And thank you to, I forget who it was that just Muzz King and somebody else helped me get my most recent gift goal. I appreciate that. I think that was 15. All right, so now we're moving on to 20. Yeah, Ask Leth, I don't think that you should have so harsh of an opinion about atheists. And, I kind of don't really believe that Satan is real, so I don't really care if somebody wants to worship him. I believe that counts as freedom of religion. Ask Leth. I understand if you're a very religious person who thinks that the devil is real and that worshiping him is him or her is potentially a deal breaker, but doesn't this fall under freedom of religion, don't you think? H-Ben says, what do you think about Zionism and the pro-Palestine movement? I think the devil's in the details there, H-Ben. So I think there's a right and a wrong way to be both Zionist and pro-Palestine. If you're so pro-Palestine that you refuse to admit that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has killed and tortured civilians, I don't think that is good. But if you're so Zionist that you believe that the Israelis have the right to kick Palestinians out of their houses, torture and murder them, treat them like second-class citizens, do some fucking apartheid shit on them, then no, I don't think that is good either. But I think that it is perfectly reasonable to want to advocate for the release of Palestinians from the subjugation of the Israeli government, the same way that I think it is reasonable to say that it would be wrong to ethnically cleanse Israel. Maddie says, are you Jewish, Jarrett? My dad was Jewish. I do not celebrate any religion. I was not bat mitzvahed, and I do not have my foreskin. All right, Philosopher TK said, should football be political or not? I mean, I don't really have a problem with anybody talking about politics, whether they are a football player or a lawyer or a garbage person. Carbine says, but only God believers told me what the devil was about. I haven't heard the other side yet. Yeah. Why aren't we red team and blue teaming this? No added sugar says, any word on Mitch? I don't believe we are ever going to hear another word from Mitch again. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen Weekend at Bernie's, but I believe that that is exactly what is going on in Mitch McConnell's office right now. Mikhail Meme asks, why are big cities often Democratic or left-leaning, like LA, New York, Stockholm, London, etc.? I mean, that's a really good question, Mikhail Meme. I think what you see in big cities is people coming in and out and associating, becoming friends, working with, getting into relationships with all different kinds of people. Whereas if you were living in a smaller town, it's generally a little bit more stagnant. You know, you always see the same people every day. There's not as many people coming in and out. And usually the people that you're neighbors with, they look exactly like you. They go to the same church as you, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lot easier to have a more monolithic attitude towards the world if you were living in that kind of community. But when you live in a big city and you're meeting all kinds of people and you're recognizing, like, oh shit, whether it doesn't matter what religion you worship or what color your skin is, or if you're a man or a woman or straight or gay or whatever, everybody's the same. Everybody's just a great person, and you know, we should judge you based on the quality of your character and not any of those other stupid things. And then, you know, having that realization kind of leads you to voting for the left, because the right tends to not advocate for that philosophy. Okay, let's see here. Franca says, do you think socialism would work if everyone adopted it? I mean, socialism is already working. Socialism is just the government doing shit with our tax dollars. So paved roads is socialism. Public school is socialism. Yeah, I mean, it works. We should have, everywhere that has universal health care is an example of socialism working. H. Ben says, did you see the new movie promoted by Musk and the far right guys? No, I did not. Good Lord. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be a real banger. It's the Rocketeer says, I believe that our first foreskin mention ever on this live. Any super fans out there care to correct or comment on that? I do not know. Okay, let's see here. Fago War Production says, the Romans taught us why intermixing sports and politics is really bad. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to there, even Fago War Productions. All right. Alice says, Social Security is socialism. I believe that is accurate. Kieran says, what do you think about Muslims trying to take over Great Britain? I do not believe that Muslims are trying to take over Great Britain. Kieran, I believe that these are just people from a place that is currently experiencing horrible conditions, famine, war, terrorism, you know, whatever. And they are just looking for a better life. They are looking for a place where their children can grow up and not have to worry about them getting drafted into some terrorist organization or army, or starving to death, or not having any water to drink or anything like that. Like, yeah, it's a little... I just reject the premise of your statement there. Fog War Production says there were chariot racing teams that were also political factions. Oh, yeah, I wonder why that's a bad thing, though. Average Joe says, did you catch the birth tourism stats that I shared? I did not. You know, I didn't want to get too deep into that, Average Joe. But I just think, what do you call it? I just wanted the top line about it being propaganda tactic, because that's basically what I figured. Okay, Kieran says, the Muslim activists going on rally and on air speaking our take about the UK. I do not believe that is real, Kieran. You either ask a question or you leave. Fogwar Production says, because their fans would routinely riot and unalive each other. Ugh. But I wonder if that's what you can base that on. I wonder if that's if the mixing of politics and racing. Yeah, I don't know. I would need to learn a little bit more about that Fogwar, because I don't see similar things happening. You know, actually, you can't put anything past American politics. It gets too fucking weird. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Maximilian says, if by democracy a non-democratic party comes to power, should that party still be accepted? I mean, we're living through that, Maximilian. I think that there should be some sort of safeguards in place for non-democratic parties coming to power via democratic means. Like, that's kind of what the framers were intending by structuring the American government the way that they did. And unbelievably, it has kind of been working. But, you know, hopefully we make our way through this most recent attempt at turning America into a dictatorship. Alrighty. AENM says, I thought socialism was the workers' only means of production. I believe that's communism, but I'm not going to get into a semantic argument about what is socialism, communism, etc. Ask Let says, do you think they remove our foreskin to limit our full power? That's right, Jewish people. We are unstoppable sexual machines, and we needed to be hindered like Harrison Bergeron. If anybody remembers that Kurt Vonnegut short story. You know, this has been a weird one, and me and the missus are driving up to see the in-laws today with the little one, so I'm probably gonna wrap things up early because I don't see this discourse getting any better today, guys. It's just all foreskin and fucking racist dog whistles. People asking me about countries I never even fucking heard of. You know, boy oh boy. All right, no, here we got a really good, and don't forget the anime body pillow guy. Well, that was the one positive where I managed to eke out a win in our little game of me not reading those comments. But Doc Holliday actually does have a really good question here. It says, when will money be taken out of politics? So Doc Holliday, shortest answer to that question is when we replace Republican politicians with Democratic politicians. And everybody's going to be putting in the comments like, oh, the Democrats are owned by the billionaires and they take corporate money and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But here's the big difference is that the Democratic platform is to get money out of politics. The Republican platform is to put more money into politics. And we have seen that play out over the past 50 years. When Democratic administrations have been in power, they have tried to limit the effect of money in politics. And when Republican administrations have been in power, they do the opposite. If you look at the Supreme Court cases over the last 50 years that have made campaign contributions and basically money in politics easier, bribery easier and more legal, shit like that, that stuff has the Republican Party's fingerprints all over it. It is just right-wing Supreme Court justices who were nominated by people like Reagan and W. Bush and Trump who are voting on these, who are voting yes on these issues, you know? And there's even a case that Ted Cruz brought himself that then the right-wing justices found in his favor to make it easier for people to steal money and put it in their own pocket when they are running and, you know, accepting bribes when they are running for political office. So, yeah, you know, better is better and worse is worse. You know, at the very least, replacing Republicans with Democrats would at least stop the bleeding and not make things worse. But I personally believe, I have a lot of faith that the Democratic Party can, if given enough seats and given enough power, actually do some sort of, legislating to get money out of politics. And it might not be perfect, it might not be enough, but it'll at least be a step in the right direction. Rem V, Muzz King, Mia, and Joy, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. All right, and I do have to start wrapping things up, guys. So thank you very much for all of your support, your questions, your comments, your likes. If you want to support the show financially, you can. There are ways to do that. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a super fan on TikTok. You can be a subscriber on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe on Twitch for free. Helps me out a ton. Costs you zero. Would love it if you did that. Let's see here. You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, please reach out to me. I want to be a resource for you to be more involved with politics and more informed about politics. So however I can help you do that, use me and abuse me. Use me until I'm all used up. You can get in touch with me via DM. My DMs are open. You can hit me up via my website. Link is in the bio. Or you can hit me up via my Discord channel. Link is also in the bio. There's also on the Discord channel a great community. There's recommendations for books and podcasts and also for civic actions. If you want to help but you don't know how, the Discord is a great place to go to. And if that's even too much for you, just shoot me a message and I will help. I will help get your boots on the ground. I want you involved. I want you in the fucking mud. And if you need any direction for how to get there, I will give it to you. So let me get you in this fight, in this struggle. Let me get you into the work. I cannot wait for you to do some work to help solve this problem. You're going to show the baby to everybody? Hey, look at my baby, my cute little baby, everybody. We gotta go see Grandma and Grandpa today, so we're gonna get out of here. All right, everybody. No show tomorrow because we'll be out of town, but I will see you guys. I will see you guys on Monday, same bad time, same bad channel. Do the work. Happy 4th, and be good to each other, everybody. Take care. Bye bye. Goodbye.